When you're stuck and like getting to that point where you're almost just going to throw in the towel, you can talk to somebody right then and there and just be like, hey, how do I do this? I'm getting super frustrated. I'm about ready to quit. I just can't handle it. Can you help me? What do you suggest? And I have a lot of friends that will help me do that.
Sometimes you need emotional support, and sometimes you need actual, like, how do I do this?
That ain't no lie. Talk me down, please.
Nuts, Bolts, and Thingamajigs, the charitable foundation of the Fabricators and Manufacturers Association, is on a mission to shape the future of manufacturing by helping people explore careers in this exciting field. With your help, NBT provides scholarships, grants, and other resources to support the next generation of makers and build a strong, innovative manufacturing industry for years to come. Learn more about NBT and how you can get involved today at FMAMFG.org.
Welcome to the Fabricator Podcast. Dan Davis of the Fabricator Magazine, and my co-host today is Josh Welton.
Hello.
Hello, Josh.
Hi.
We are interviewing Staci Martinez of 605 Shield Maiden.
Yep.
During the discussion, we were talking about sculptures and large-scale sculptures, and we kind of segued it into frightening sculptures.
I started talking about wanting just to drop art in the middle of places. Like, I want to do a RoboCop sculpture and just, like, a huge one and just drop it in the middle of Detroit. And then Staci brought up the Jason Voorhees sculpture.
Right.
Which is incredible.
In the bottom of the lake.
It's in Lake Crystal, Minnesota.
Yeah.
And obviously, you're going to have to get a little wet if you want to see this up close. But yeah, it's a little unnerving if you don't know it's there.
If you're diving and you come across a full-sized, like, imagine yourself, one of the loneliest places you can be is underwater. And, you don't hear anything. There's no ambient sound except for whatever rushing, bubbling, or whatever. I don't know. I don't dive. But, like, underwater, you're alone. And then you come across a life-size statue. You don't know it's a statue. It could be Jason Voorhees just standing there, like murky water, and as you get closer, it's like bam, Jason Voorhees.
Right.
Or you're trying to frantically kayak away from it when you're in the middle of it.
Yeah, like
that's when you just fall in.
That's when you die.
Yeah.
And we started talking about like scary sculptures, some intentional, some not so much.
Yeah.
Like
you brought up the Ronaldo bust.
The Ronaldo bust was supposed to be amazing, and it is amazing.
And if you don't even know it, you will recognize it because it made its rounds pretty widely.
It's maybe one of the worst sculptures for one of the most famous sports athletes, entertainment personalities
the hair's
in the
pretty
world.
Good.
And I think it was at his hometown's like regional airport in Portugal.
That could be. Yeah, they should have had somebody else do it.
Although
he looks pretty goofy right there,
yeah.
So maybe, I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe it's closer to
it's not.
reality than we think.
No, it's not.
Now, we were kind of riffing earlier about Garbage Pail Kids in another conversation.
That's true.
I'm kind of thinking I'd want to see like a sculpture garden of Garbage Pail Kids.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
All right, put that on the to-do list.
Yeah, we'll put that on
Commission
the
someone
list.
to do a series of Garbage Pail Kids.
The fabricator needs to commission me to do a series of Garbage Pail sculptures for the office, for the head office.
Yeah. At FMA?
Yes,
That's
at
it.
FMA.
Luckily, I have that much influence in this organization. After that suggestion, I might find myself on the outside of these glass walls.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Well, say goodbye to my career and enjoy this interview with Staci Martinez.
Navigate your leadership journey at the FMA Annual Meeting, February 27th to the 29th in Clearwater, Florida. At this premier event, you'll connect with top leaders in the fabrication industry to share ideas, collaborate to solve business challenges, and build strategic relationships. Chart your course for success in 2024 and beyond at the FMA Annual Meeting. Find all the details at FMAMFG.org. And now, back to the episode.
Welcome back. Josh to my left and Staci to our right. Hello, Staci.
Hi.
Hello,
Hi,
Josh.
Staci. Hi, Dan.
Hi,
Hello.
Dan.
How's it go? You've been in the pages of the Welder
Yes, I have.
And that's where I at least first got introduced to you. You're active on social media. Can you give our listening public an idea of just who Staci might be?
I'm a metal artist. I weld and make sculptures. I'm on the SculptureWalk downtown in my city. It's one of the biggest sculpture walks in the world.
And that's Sioux Falls, South
Sioux
Dakota.
Falls, South Dakota. Yep.
Yeah. So how did you get involved in welding?
Oh, kind of long story, but to cut it short, I was inventory management at a manufacturing facility. They ran short on welders. They asked me if I wanted to, and I said no. And then they were persistent and asked me again, and I was like, okay. So I tried it, and I fell in love with it. So here I am today.
Yeah, and you stuck with that for like 2 years, right? Or did you kind of go between your old job and welding?
So actually, while I was welding, my husband and I quit welding at that job. So my husband and I can start our own wood floor company.
Okay.
So we did that. I worked side by side with him for years. And then about 3 years ago, I started my own business doing welding because that's where my heart is.
Were you kind of at that moment when you were kind of asked to try out welding?
Yeah.
You kind of know at that moment you're into it?
Oh, yeah. As soon as I did it, at first I was terrified of it. I'm like, because I thought I was going to get burnt, And then I did it. And I
first time
loved
you
it.
strike
And
an
I'm like,
arc.
yeah. And I'm like, I have to continue to do this. I just felt like that's where my passion was. And that's where I found out like that's where my artistic side is.
And even as you were doing what I guess was production welding, right?
Yeah. Yep.
You had an
making
idea
fans,
of what you could do with that talent?
Yeah. I had a lot of people surrounding me. So that's how I learned. Everybody came up to me and was like, hey, why don't you try it this way or that way? And some of them made metal art and sold it and things like that. And I'm just like, I can totally do that. And then I would see stuff in the scrap bin and just look at it and I just see things, I'm like, I can totally make something with that.
Right.
So that's, kind of how that came about. So
yeah. You come across a lot of people in your classes with similar stories?
Not necessarily there's some in the classes, but just in general, it's a really common thread for especially people who like get into it and then thrive with it is that first spark, you're hooked. It's like the first one's free and then you're done for life. Like you have to weld. After that, it's a lot of what's available because you're not just going to go buy a bunch of raw materials. So you're practicing on scrap and then it's like, this is kind of boring. I could probably make something out of this scrap. And then you start, it's kind of like, it's the evolution of a welding artist kind of. That seems like a pretty common thread. So yeah, you do see that a lot. And it's not that it happens a lot. It's just that when it happens, that seems to be a common theme. Yeah.
What got you back into it after the interval of you starting your own business with your husband?
So that's what I wanted to do. Welding was where my heart was. And so I'm just like, well, I'm going to do this. And I first started off just making wood furniture and things like that just to get enough money to get my welder. So I got my welder and I just kind of followed through with that. I just did little small things. I wood burn. I do all kinds of other stuff. So once I got enough money from doing that, then I started buying my welding equipment little by little until I am where I am today. So
yeah. How's that progression been in terms of talent development?
Amazing. When you do, so I also fabricate like legs, table legs and things like that too. Kind of learning through that kind of brings that stuff into the artist side. Is
there a collaboration with your husband when you're doing like table legs? Is there any does he do any woodworking beyond the floor or is it mostly the flooring?
Eventually we'll want to lead up to that.
Yeah.
Like later on down the line.
Gotcha.
But no, I do collaborations with my friend Bryce. He does the top part and we do that stuff for a home builder.
Gotcha.
So he'll do the top part, I do the bottom part.
Wow. So you railings as well? I've seen.
I do hand railings. I do not love hand railings, so that is not where my
right.
Fabricating isn't where my heart is. I want to make art full time. Sculptures, things like that, big sculptures. So that's why I got my CNC machine and things like that.
Wow.
So that was the purpose behind getting that.
How large do you want to go with the sculptures?
As big as I possibly can. I mean, I only work out of a 4-stall garage right now, so it's not super high, but
that's what she pointing to my wife because you're listening.
Yeah,
but
Darla's
she's trying to get
off to the side here.
Off to the side, our audience. She keeps trying to get me to do larger scale sculptures. So I'm always interested into how the progressions that an artist goes from what they're doing on a bench to all of a sudden now they're making something 2 stories tall.
Yeah, something they got to climb.
Yeah,
that's the goal.
So your piece on the SculptureWalk, can you tell us about that?
Sure. So it was a commission piece initially. and he was called the Roman gnome.
Okay.
And what the point of him was, his backpack is functional. So they wanted to be able to put something nice to make somebody's day in the back, like maybe movie tickets or
Oh, that's cool.
like gift cards, things like that. And just, he was supposed to be put on somebody's porch.
Oh.
So then when I met with the lady to give her to him, she's just like, this thing is way more than I expected. I think he can do better things than what is happening right now. So I was like, okay. And he wasn't my first, so I have a vision board. He wasn't my first thing on that I wanted to put on the SculptureWalk, but he ended up being that way. I ended up creating the rest of him, the leaf on the bottom, the mushrooms, and then I entered him.
Wow. That's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
I'd love to see something like that, like 20 feet tall.
Right? Look at his
Dan only
toes.
likes
That's
big
like my
art.
favorite part.
I like big fantasy-based art. A giant troll in the hometown should do everybody. Did it?
Right.
So it's a gnome,
that's
right?
cool.
It's not a troll.
Yeah, no,
I don't
sure.
want to bring your
Yeah.
artwork down.
See, the backpack is functional. I had to tack it on there though for the SculptureWalk because there are vandals.
I was about
Oh, yeah.
to say, yeah.
There's vandals.
So the commission piece was meant to be just kind of something that just roamed amongst some friends or family?
Just
awesome.
passed along.
So where is this in your journey in terms of a metal artist? Were you to the point where you felt confident in your skills or
This is
early
my-
on?
I didn't really feel I didn't feel confident doing him,
Oh, okay.
but I had no idea it was going to turn out like that.
Okay.
So that's just, so he's my first actual piece. I've done other small things, but nothing like that.
Okay.
What was the
Feel like-
hardest part of doing that? Because I'm looking at the hands are actually pretty well done, and the feet.
Yeah.
You see a lot of artists, even if they're just like painting or drawing, they avoid trying to draw hands because it's the hardest thing to.
Yep.
His hands were actually the easiest thing for
Was it?
me. Yeah.
Human figures are
And-
difficult because if you don't get the proportions right,
Right.
it just looks funky. So
Yeah.
that's why you see a lot of metal artists that kind of try to skirt certain things. Taking on that challenge, that only leads to then you're doing. So like when you were asking about confidence, it's for me personally, it was the confidence only came from doing the work. And then after a while, like every project, I was like, this is going to suck. Like I'm not doing a good job, and I get done with it. And then I'm like, oh, I did that. And then the next time someone asked, it was like, okay, maybe. And as you progress, all of a sudden it gets to the point where you're like, okay, I can handle anything they throw at me because I've overcome these problems so many
Right.
times.
Yeah, the confidence just comes with putting yourself out there,
Yep.
doing it more. Not really giving a crap what other people say about your work. Just keep doing it because you're just going to get better.
Yeah.
So how have you progressed in terms of scope of projects or sophistication of projects?
So I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Tough as Nails, the show.
Yeah.
The
I
season
think I
one
have.
winner, Murph, I did an emblem for the front of his truck that he
Oh,
won.
sweet.
I sculpted that out and painted that one. Yeah, so he drives around with that
There you
on the
go,
front of
an
his
original.
truck. Yeah.
What's like the
Yeah.
what's your next project that
Sure. So the city of Baltic, South Dakota, reached out and asked me to do a permanent veterans memorial piece that'll sit out. It's like 6 panels, 10 feet tall, and they'll have like cutouts of each military branch. So yeah,
Wow.
like the emblem for the
yeah. So it'll have like the emblem at the top, and then a cutout of a veteran on
Okay.
there. And
Cool. That's
yeah.
awesome.
Do you have any idea how you might want to approach that? Is that
oh yeah, yep. So it'll be stainless steel.
okay?
And I'm using my CNC machine.
Oh,
So
wow.
they're not like, they're flat panels. So they'll
Yeah.
just be cut out and, lasered, or not
So-
laser, but
So
plasmid.
there'll actually be like just 2D, a flat sheet metal.
Yeah. Sheet
Gotcha.
metal with the
Gotcha.
sides. I think I'm going to use like 2x2 tubing.
And when's that going to be installed?
Hopefully by next year, I'll be working through the winter on it, on each panel. So
Okay.
What's
cool.
the size?
10 foot by 2 foot wide. I'm super excited about this one because my dad was a veteron. So
Oh, wow.
Excellent.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a permanent fixture in a park.
That's awesome.
So,
So is that near Sioux Falls?
yeah, it's about, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So super
All right.
close.
In the neighborhood. So what's it like with the new tools in your shop?
I love it. Anything to help me progress.
Yeah.
And all this stuff I learned by myself. It's I'm pretty much self-taught and everything. So
Yeah.
as I learn, I have friends that I can reach out to that help me with anything, any questions that I have, stuff like that. So I'm super grateful for that.
Yeah.
Having those resources is invaluable. Like you can read all you can and you can watch videos, but having someone you can actually pick their brain and maybe
Yes.
watch them do something is
Yeah.
nothing beats that. Accelerates the learning curve so quickly.
It really does. And when you're stuck and like getting to that point where you're almost just going to throw in the towel, you can talk to somebody right then and there and just be like, hey, how do I do this? I'm getting super frustrated. I'm about ready to quit. I just can't handle it. Can you help me? What do you suggest? And I have a lot of friends that will help me do that. So
sometimes you need emotional support, and sometimes you need actual like, how do I do this?
That ain't no lie. Talk me down, please.
Is there an example of like that?
So with that gnome, I had no idea what I was doing, and my friend Evan, he lives in Kentucky, like far, and he does sculptures and things like that too. So I just reached out. He's eveco.com, and so I reached out to him, and a lot of times, even if it was like something so stupid, like, why is this air hose leaking and this tool isn't working because there's so much air leaking, just things like that I didn't know because I just buy these tools not really knowing how to use them. And
it's nice having those people, because I run into having done working so long, you think that you just like knew how to do this stuff, and then you think back and you're like, 20 years ago somebody showed me how to do that. And that's a necessary process of the whole thing. And I think some people, they don't want to ask those questions. And I've always been like, you have a question, just ask it.
Yes, that's how you learn.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
No question is a stupid question. People ask me questions. I'm free and willing to give away any kind of information that'll help them. So
100%.
What I've learned by myself mostly, or just reached out and asked.
Yeah.
So,
cool. That's awesome.
Is there anything on the list for you to learn that you're kind of interested in that maybe you don't know?
Forging. I want to learn how to forge.
Yes.
I want to get really good at my CNC machine. Things like that. Yeah. I'm excited for that kind of stuff.
So have you, I guess with the CNC machine, it comes maybe with design software. Have you used that before? And
I went head first in this not knowing a single thing about any of it.
Wow.
So that's the best thing about Fast Cut though.
They are there to answer your questions.
Yes,
They're
I can
awesome.
call them anytime, and the best part about that is like most of my friends have it.
Okay.
So if I get stuck on something, they're all right there for me. My friend Rhea, and you guys know Ray Ripple, she answers my questions, anything that I have. They are so awesome.
Was that an actual controller I just saw?
Yeah,
it's an Xbox controller. It's sweet.
Wow.
I haven't even I'm still trying to figure out the programming, so sometimes I just take that and I cut stuff with the controller.
Yeah.
I can cut a straight line here and here, but yeah, Russ and Charlie and all those guys at Fast Cut, they're freaking awesome.
They are.
So, how big can you go in terms of like sheet for this?
Sure, mine's a 4x8.
Okay.
I think it goes. The biggest that they provide is 8x10. I could be wrong.
Where does one pick up your forging studies?
They're everywhere.
Yeah, and you know what? I did the artist reception when I was when they were going to install the sculpture downtown. I met a couple from Mitchell, South Dakota, and they own a forging school. They were so cool.
Wow.
Yeah, so they invited me up sometime to come check it out.
Do that for sure.
There's a lot of stuff happening in South Dakota.
There is, and I'm finding that little by little as I go along. I'm finding people just like me. So it's not only here. I look forward to coming to FabTech every year because there's like-minded people. I learn things and stuff like that.
How many years you been coming now?
I think this is my 3rd or 4th year.
Cool.
Going back to when you first started welding, the reason that really intrigues me is that obviously a lot of people, a lot of shops struggle to find welders, and there's a variety of reasons for that.
Don't get me started.
Whoa.
Sometimes,
settle down, Josh.
but it's not just welders, because I've heard the same stories about like pulling people from the front office to run press breaks and stuff like that.
Sure.
And to me, like
that might be
as a
lot
guy
in
that sits
couple
behind a
of
desk,
weeks.
that looks kind of interesting way to break up the week. But how was that training for you early on? Was it kind of just enough to get you to the point where you could do it, or was it kind of methodical?
It was kind of spotty.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to have my friends that worked there to say, hey, don't do that, do this.
Yeah.
And a lot of my bosses would come up and just kind of watch me during the process and just teach me different ways to do it.
Yeah.
I got super lucky.
Was it basically MIG?
It's all MIG, because it was manufactured. They want it done quick and
right.
What kind of things were you building, or what were being built?
Snow blowers or snow throwers, the fans, all fan stuff.
How long did you last doing that?
Gosh, I want to say 1.5 years.
No kidding. Wow. Was that welding every day?
Tacking, stuff like that.
All right. So
like sometimes I would just tack and somebody else would weld it, or just vice versa.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
How many welders were there at that place?
Not very many. Probably like I want to say on our shift maybe like 15, and the night shift maybe like 8.
wow.
something like that. But they had facilities like all over the United States. So
no kidding.
it wasn't just in my town. So
Oh, I gotcha.
How long ago did you start getting your own shop set up?
3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's you're right at the beginning still. That's
Yeah, I
awesome.
am.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Still got a lot to learn. There's never ending learning in this trade.
So how does one kind of follow up on their desire to do like metal art full time? Is it word of mouth for you, or?
Yeah. So when I got into the SculptureWalk, I didn't know that you're like entered into this list of artists. So if somebody's looking for a piece, they can look me up or look up
that's awesome.
everybody and see what I do. And somebody can be like, hey. And then not only that, as it's put in a SculptureWalk thing. So there's well, Canada does it. So they have a SculptureWalk, and other parts of the United States do that as well. So they can pick up my sculptures. So I have this one on the SculptureWalk
Okay.
right now. Somebody bought it within 6 weeks of it being there.
Oh, wow.
But it has to sit there the whole time because they paid me.
Oh.
So then once April comes around, then the lady will get it, the one that bought it. But so if it wasn't bought, and if it didn't win the People's Choice Award, which is the thing at the end, then the city of Sioux Falls would buy that piece and permanently put it downtown.
Oh, wow.
So if that doesn't happen, that's open for everybody to say, hey, I want to display your sculpture. Can we have it here? And then I'll agree. Yeah.
Right.
And then they'll pay me for the year to put it out, and so on and so forth. So it could be out there for years.
Wow.
So-
That's rad.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yep.
So it's kind of like permanent advertising if things work out the right way.
It does, as long as I
Yeah.
keep at it.
So have you had people come to you because of that in the meantime?
Yeah, they're like, are you the lady that built the gnome downtown? Yeah, because there's like a QR code and it kind of brings you to it. And
Oh,
then, yeah.
wow. Okay. So do you have other commissions kind of in the works because of this?
So yeah, so every year they do this. So right now when I go home, I started a little late, but I'm going to start my next piece. So it is, if I just have a piece of it and like maybe a sketch of what it's going to look like later in the height and weight and all that kind of stuff, I can still be entered. So I have until actually like February to like have it completed.
Gotcha.
So
That's not bad.
yeah.
Do you have any early idea what you'd like to do?
I do.
Will you reveal any of it?
Yeah.
Sure.
So there's an iconic statue
World exclusive.
There you go.
in our town. His name is Mr. Bendo, and he's the muffler guy. So he's pretty iconic. He's been around since like the 60s or 70s. And some lady was drinking and driving and slammed into him and broke his leg. And everybody was so mad, but he got repaired, and that business actually closed down, but another business kept him. So it's like a big thing in our town. I don't know. So yeah, I'm going to try to recreate him, not as tall as he is, because I think he's about as tall as that. And so I want to do
come on,
like,
you said you want to go
oh,
large
there you
scale.
go. There he is. And you know what I just learned? Somebody was
That is
telling me about
awesome.
him that this guy is like, he comes in like different poses. And I forget who they say he was an original too, but there's a lot like him out there.
We've
Just
got
muffler shops across the world.
we've got one in my near my hometown, Crystal Lake, Illinois, but it's
I'm
a
not gonna
Native
lie,
American.
it looks familiar.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and now it's on the grounds of a landscaping company.
I feel like
So-
Muffler Man should have muffler or like piping that is proportional to his size.
Yeah.
Like holding
Mine's
up
not going to be quite that big.
So you're replicating this?
Yeah, I'm going to try to scale him down a little bit.
That's excellent.
They've kept him in good condition.
They really did. He's been painted over the years too. I believe he
Right.
was blue before or something like that.
Going back to the I love when artists take on the challenge of doing a human form, because you see a lot of people that like stick with, animals or horses, and those are cool, but you can kind of cheat a little bit on them. You don't have to be like, they come in all shapes and sizes, and or like even like pop culture stuff. But when you do the human form, there's like no place to hide. You kind of got to nail it.
Yeah.
And I always dig when I had a friend tell me years ago who was an artist, and he basically told me, don't even try. It's just too difficult. And I'm like, okay, dude, I'm going to do it now.
Now I got to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't
You sure
tell
you
me
wouldn't
what to
reverse
do.
psychology?
Maybe, but he was he was an art school artist,
Oh,
so
okay.
they're different. They're a different
Yeah.
breed, but that was motivation for me for sure.
So you'd mentioned kind of thinking about doing things on a larger scope. Any ideas crossed your head?
It's not going to happen now because it's too late. But when there was the whole, I don't know if you were aware of this, but in Detroit, there was a huge controversy over wanting a RoboCop statue. And so, like, everyone was, and I think, didn't somebody end up dropping one in the middle of the street somewhere? Or was that my idea? So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to build this giant RoboCop sculpture and not tell anybody about it, and then just, crane it to the center of town and put it on, like, the corner of a sidewalk or something.
So why is it too late to do that?
It's probably not. It was
like, what? That is an
it was a
amazing
huge
idea.
buzz a few years ago. So I guess it's actually probably better now.
Right?
Yes.
And then just kind of totally sneak
I would
up
say
on
you've
them.
lost the element of surprise, so maybe you put it in a.
I did just
not
talk
in the
about
mi-
it on this
yes.
podcast that we are recording.
It's a great idea, though.
Yeah.
Where would
Okay.
be the best place in Detroit to do that?
I've got a few different ideas, like somewhere in Campus Martius, or you could go just opposite and go somewhere that's totally broken down, and then all of a sudden you drive through there and there's this giant RoboCop sculpture saying, like,
Yeah.
I'm a good guy, but I'm going to
Halt,
kill you.
citizen.
Hulk citizen. I'll buy that for $1. So we live right across from Art Center. Or it was a scrap a recycling place, but they have a space where they do art too. Yeah, that would be a cool spot, but I think I would just blend in too much. It has to be somewhere in like downtown somewhere.
Yeah,
I
it's
think.
almost better if he's standing on his own too, because I think
100%.
like he's a little controversial.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was saying it's like when someone dropped that like metal monolith in the middle of the desert.
Oh, like
Oh,
2009.
that, yeah.
Well, that was
No,
like a couple years
2001.
ago.
I'm at.
No, this
Yeah,
just
man.
happened.
That
was like
reminds
2
me-
years ago.
That reminds me, somebody at Lake Crystal, Minnesota built like a Jason Voorhees and dropped it in the lake.
No way.
Yeah.
I almost wore my Mike Myers shirt that says, "Get in, losers, we're going slashing."
Well, I literally live in Crystal Lake, Illinois, so
This is
that
Lake Crystal, Minnesota.
This whole idea of just making art and dropping it somewhere, I love it.
Can you imagine coming across this and not knowing it's
I
in
would
there?
probably pee my pants. Minimum.
Oh
And
wow!
what is it-
looks
what is
like,
it made of?
It looks stone.
I don't know.
Is it
Let's rust it
concrete
out.
metal or is it? That is amazing. Oh,
Yeah.
that dude's a step ahead of all of us.
Enjoying art underwater.
Yeah.
It doesn't really say what it's made out of.
See, now you can start adding that. Lake Crystal, Minnesota. Who else can we put down there? Aquaman.
This one's a little more scary.
Yeah,
That's
I want to do
frightening.
something that makes people afraid to go in the water. Do like a giant jaw, like a Jaws sculpture
There you
under there or
go.
something
Yeah,
like that.
there you
Yeah.
go.
Permanent shark fin. Art is more fun when it's large and obnoxious.
Just make like a sculpture of a jaw of like a megalodon and put it down there and be like, oh, look what we discovered.
Alligator scale, just
Yes.
barely.
We can do a dual
poking through
commission.
the
Did you
top.
see the woodworker who was doing that with tables? That is incredible.
I did see that.
Yeah.
Epoxy. I think
So
they're
what's
wooden
he
epoxy
doing?
tables.
He's like basically carving like the top side of an alligator into a wood table.
Oh, wow.
And then I don't know if they're doing like the clear around it to make it look like it's. I didn't catch the finish.
I
of
can't
it.
remember what the finish was. I'm pretty sure it was like clear epoxy or
Yeah,
something.
they're doing
I
some
could
really
be
cool
wrong.
stuff though with like wood carving for tables and things
Oh,
like
wow.
that. Or Caterpillar did like a whole diorama of like their big like one of their big. I don't know, executive tables has like a whole like mine scene with like little miniatures of all their equipment in
No
it, which
kidding.
is not at the level of the alligator. I'm just throwing that out there. Tables can be cool.
No, that's a lot of fun. You had a relationship with a home builder. You were doing some
Yeah.
tables you mentioned.
Yeah, a lot.
Right.
So I did. I furnished 2 houses.
Oh wow.
Yeah, one of them was there was 2 like bookshelf type things, the kitchen table, the coffee table, and then in another house I did a king size bed. That was the first for me.
Oh, nice.
That was a learning curve. Their coffee table, 3 end tables, their kitchen table, and I think
Wow.
that's it.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
Wow.
Super fun though. It's really cool to actually go in their house and see that
Yeah.
displayed. Yeah.
And that was part of their like the home building, or was it after
Kind
it
of.
was
So
completed?
they built their home builders, but they also have this furniture store like kind of on the side that they
Oh,
do.
wow.
So they offer that as an
Yeah.
option. So I still do it. So this fabrication work, it does bring stuff like and ideas as I'm going along, like, oh yeah, I can do that. I know how I can incorporate this into like a
Right.
sculpture or something, or like how it moves and stuff.
So that's like multi-material. Is there a material you want to work with that you haven't worked with before?
Not necessarily.
You're not going to start sculpting out of clay anytime soon, or
No.
Same.
No.
Do you do race car beds?
I was actually asked to help with a roll cage for one, and and I'm like, I don't know about that. I'm not there yet. Let's say that.
There you go. We have a friend in hydroforming that can help you with the roll forming or the roll cage, but that's another podcast.
Actually, I would like to get into metal forming as well, like shaping and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just that's the tools and stuff for that. It's like really expensive, so I gotta wait a little while.
A lot of it involves experience too. Just
Yes.
kind of learning
So it'd
how.
be like I'd love to be a fly on the wall somewhere where they do that and just learn, just
Right.
watch them.
Where is your welding going to take you next? You think?
I just want to make art. I just want to make sculptures,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. So that is initially my plan, and then maybe for a side business, my husband and I going in on some furniture.
Yeah.
Him being the wood part, me being the metal part, but that's way in the future, like when I'm trying to like settle down a little bit more. But right now, I'm just trying to climb that ladder a little bit in the welding art world. So
You still work? I mean, for a while you were working very close with your husband, correct?
yeah, no, not so much. Like if he needs help with something, I'll go
Yeah.
help him. But for now, my focus is on my welding, and then I do a lot of volunteering stuff for the Hooded Heroes Foundation.
That's
things
what I
like
wanted
that.
to ask you about
Yeah.
is maybe touch on the Hooded Heroes organization.
Yeah, so we are the Hooded Heroes Foundation. We help welding students that can't afford the proper PPE. We supply them with hoods, safety glasses, gloves, FR gear, boots, anything they need. We put a kit together and we send it to them. They will come to us, and they have to write an essay why they need help, and it goes through an application process.
And you take you have some corporate sponsors, but you also take individual sponsors. And I thought I read you take even like slightly used grinders and tools and things like that.
Yes, as long as it still has life in it, we, and as these students can use that,
Okay.
So we'll take anything used or whatever's anybody's willing to help with. There's a lot of students out there that get discouraged because they're like, well, I got
Right.
this loan to go to school, but now I can't afford grinding discs or cups or whatever it may be.
Even going to school, a lot of times they're so down on supplies and stuff. Like it's kind of a hit or miss because the kids that aren't serious will go in and take a lot of the stuff and just they'll leave the school high and dry and just steal the stuff. So
Yeah.
they're going more and more to like you have to kind of supply your own stuff.
Yeah.
That's difficult to do when you're just getting into doing this stuff.
Yeah, and some of them are working full time and going
Yeah.
to school.
Yep.
So, and they're making minimum wage or whatever it is. But we want them to. The thing is, our saying is, we're giving them a hand up, not a handout.
Yes.
We want them to pay it forward eventually. But yeah.
So are you focused more on young people that are already in the workplace or
No,
younger
so
students or?
They can be young or old, as
Okay.
long as they're attending school and they can prove it, and we can talk to
Gotcha.
like somebody from their school, and we get references. So we call the
Yeah.
references to make sure that they are in a situation.
Oh, excellent.
To where they do need a hand up and things like that. We
And
just
you
don't.
do have testimonials on the website.
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've helped out only 9 students so far. We're just trying
That's
to
a
get
good
out
start.
there. So we're trying to expand into
It
Canada.
ranges the gamut. I saw some not necessarily like young people. I mean,
No, it could be you could be
Yeah.
any age. You could be 85 years old and you want to learn how to weld
Right.
and you can't afford it. Like, just come to us.
Awesome.
We'll help you.
That's awesome.
You don't have to be a kid.
And if you're out there and you're looking to get involved with this, should they contact the organization or you or?
So we're bigger on Instagram. So
Okay.
they can find us there, or they can go to hoodedheroes.org and they can look at any of those board members. All of our handles are on there, our Instagram handles. So you can go in there and just read about each one of us, and whoever you feel comfortable with reaching out, we'll get it done.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome.
what was the inspiration for creating?
So Joey Crusoe and Katie, they are the ones that started it. And Joey's a weld instructor, and he just happened to he comes across a lot of kids that don't have the money, and it just like it hit him in the heart. So
Right.
that's where it started. And yeah, so when he assembled us, he was just looking for people that had a welding background, and that kind of came from a background that we needed a hand up too. So this is our way to give back. So
Yeah.
That's excellent.
It's totally a thing that needs to be addressed.
it really
'cause,
does.
Yeah, I wrote something earlier this year about kids at my wife's local high school where she's a teacher now. She was a dean then, but the kid was asking where he can get like money to buy steel-toed boots so he can go apply for a job. 'Cause he didn't have any.
Yeah. So
It's-
that's when they hit us up. As long as they're registered in school and they have
Yeah.
references, we are here to help for that. So that's why we hold raffles. and things like that. That's how we get money to.
Oh wow.
Right on. And it
Support
runs the
that.
gamut from tools to PPE to anything you would need to do
Yeah.
to weld.
Yes,
That's
for
how I
school.
read it. Was,
Yes.
Yeah.
So obviously you've not only found like a creative outlet in welding, it's almost like you're kind of the community speaks to you as well.
Yes, it really does.
Yeah.
I love coming here to FabTech because I do feel like these are my people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and so this is my niche. This is
It's like
where
our
I want to
Super
be.
Bowl. This is like the
Yeah.
Fabricator
It
Super
is.
Bowl.
It's like the Christmas for us welders.
So let me ask you this, because there's the world of welding, the world of making things is big. So there's a lot of commercialism. You know what I mean? A lot of big time machines being sold here, big business deals being discussed.
Oh, this is typically, and then we've talked about this a few times, was like 5 to 10 years ago, this was the stodgy, like you only belonged here if
Right.
you were buying 100 machines or,
Right.
buying millions of dollars worth of stuff.
Yeah.
And then this transition started happening when all of us started coming to the show more and more.
Yeah.
And then companies also realized that people are starting businesses in different ways now.
Yeah.
And you've got a lot of individuals who start a company like you do, and then 5 years, 10 years down the road, they realize like, okay, I can afford to have a robotics cell to do this.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they're building their business that way. And I
Yeah.
think it took, some companies are still like trying to
Right.
figure it out,
Right.
but it's become much more of a engaging, interactive, like it's everything now.
So yeah. So like I totally agree, because the reflection of like people like yourself is actually the people walking the aisle.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the majority of like fabricating companies in this nation are small,
Yep.
probably less than 50 people.
Yeah.
Probably,
Yeah.
in all honesty, probably less than 25.
Yeah, usually you're not going to have like, General Motors isn't showing up to buy their fleet
Right.
of, whatever.
Right.
But it's the other cool thing about this show is seeing how quickly, like we were talking to Greg from Redbeard, and he was talking he's like, I'm looking at this stuff and I'm dreaming knowing that I'll never have that.
Yeah.
But you don't know that.
Right.
And
Yeah.
because like years ago, we'd look at the 3D printing and like, well, that's out of our ballpark. And now
Right.
people have them sitting on their desk.
Yeah.
And same thing with CNC machines. Now
Yeah.
everyone
Yeah.
is getting them. All this stuff that we saw on the floor first that we're like, wow, that's wild, now is ending up. I mean, we're going to have laser welders in people's garages before
Yeah.
too long.
Right.
So
Yeah, I
like
mean-
it's just the cool place to see what's next, you know,
Right.
what's happening out there. And
Right.
most of us are so busy like doing what we do.
Yeah.
And then you don't have a lot of time to research what's new and what the
Right.
latest and greatest. And then you come here and you're like, oh, I could do something with that,
Yeah.
It's a unique place. I don't
Yeah.
know what your view on the show is, as far as just like what do you is it more of is it the interaction with the people? Is that
Yes. Yeah, because I don't know, in my town there isn't a whole lot of people. So
what gotcha. I grew up that way too.
right. So locally there's only 6 of us on that SculptureWalk, and there's like 67 statues out there. So there's only a few of us that are local, and
Gotcha.
so when I come here, I get to be around like-minded people. I get to meet up with my friends that I meet up with every year.
Right.
I've made best friends here.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's special to me that way. I get to have that time. So
So I've never
And-
asked you this question, and actually Stacy, this is a good one for you too.
Sure.
I talked about the community. Do you feel like you're kind of giving back to the industry in terms of you helping to have conversations like this, participating in online discussions? Do you see that as like promoting
That's
welding
Yes.
the way I
trades?
do it.
Yeah.
And that's why. So it gets frustrating on my end because once Instagram hit, everything was Instagram.
Right.
And I do so much of my content is writing for the fabricator.com and for the welder.
Yeah.
And I used to get comments all the time from people like, oh, you don't give back to the community. You don't comment on anybody's stuff. And it's like, Instagram isn't everything,
Right.
but I do that because I love it. I'm passionate
Yeah.
about it. That's why I write about the wage gap instead of the
Yeah.
skills gap. And that's why I like, both of Darla and I like showcasing people who are like they've made it in the industry and people who are
Right.
coming up and everyone in between. Like it's this
Yeah.
big like rainbow kaleidoscope
Right.
of people, and you never know. There's a lot of stuff that I've put out there that I thought that nobody read or nobody liked, and then I come here and somebody talks to me and they're like, hey, you were spot on with that, and that made me like think about this more. And
It's awesome.
that's like I mean I love doing it,
Yeah.
but a big part of that is trying to bring everyone
Yeah.
up to this level where the sky's the limit. You know?
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking like even the networking aspect of FabTech
Yeah.
Oh, for
helped
sure.
you connect like the fast cut CNC folks, right?
It really
And that
does.
kind of helps you be more like a complete fabricator. We talk
Yeah.
about that a lot too. We were just talking to Mitch Kramer from Wolfie, and he was saying like he just started out as a welder, but his passion was to be a complete fabricator. Is that what you're looking to accomplish too?
No, I don't really want to like fabricate much. I want to get more into the art part of it. But
And that's the cool thing is like you get out of it what you want out of
Yeah.
it. Like you don't have to be everything to everyone. You know, you want to.
I talk to kids too, so I go to weld competitions at the
Yeah.
local high schools, and I talk to the welding students, and they get to do their own little the contests and things like that. So they'll each like bring something that they've made, and then this last year I got to make them a trophy for that and give it to them. Those kids are so cool. Like they're just like, we can't believe you made that. And I'm just like, well, you can too.
Exactly.
So that is one of my favorite parts of being a welder, an artist, is doing these weld competitions and talking to the high school kids, because, you know, that's where it's at. These guys are a
100%.
future generation. So that is kind of contributing. So putting out and, you know,
100%
letting them
it
know
is.
that you can do whatever it is that you want in the welding industry. You can take it as far as to like, you know, being a manufacturing company, the owner of a manufacturing company welding, or you can do something as, you know, artist. You can be an artist. You can do anything.
You can go into engineering. You can go
Engineering,
into like
you could do,
that's what like a big part of what we're trying to do is get middle school kids, junior high kids exposed
Younger.
to it, so they know that that's something like it's instead of waiting until you're senior year of high school and it's like go to metal sheet class because you can't pass English or something.
Sure.
Like show them that that's an option early on, and some people won't like it and that'll motivate them to do other things, but other people that might have gone on to do other careers are like, wow, this is, and even if you don't go into a career of welding, like you have that background. Engineers, there's so many engineers that don't understand what we do, and it's just getting anyone a background in fabrication and welding like helps you later in life.
Yeah. So Ray Ripple, she kind of brings up a good conversation when she says, when kids are in kindergarten, first, second, third grade, that's when they're like looking at like, oh, I want to be a doctor, or I want to be a firefighter and things like that. So actually,
the children's book.
Yeah, it could be introduced as young as the younger elementary students, because that's when kids figure out, I can do this, or I can be a welder or whatever. So she did bring up a really good point. We were talking about that the other day. So.
Right on. Yeah, so like A for astronaut, you have A for argon, and B for, I don't know. I'll probably say something stupid if I could. Yeah,
it's just
for
as
butt
good.
weld.
It's just as good as being a nurse or a firefighter or
it's-
a police officer or anything. Just, you know.
It's not lesser than anything.
No,
it's something you can
it's
aspire
not.
to be.
Well, I
So-
think that, I sense that kind of pendulum swinging. I don't know where it is in the trip back
the
other
pendulum
way.
never stops in the middle.
Right.
It's always
Yeah.
going side
So
to
you see
side.
communities investing in their shop programs, and
They're starting to. There's crazy money right now for high school, at least in my area, for high school instructors, because if a school doesn't have one, they shut their program down, and then they lose the money that they were newly getting, because they had all shut their classes down, years ago, and now they're starting them back up, but they're trying to find people that can competently teach the classes, and those guys guys and girls are naming their price.
Yeah, and especially in districts where they may have a set pay scale because of they're doing workarounds.
Yeah,
like I don't know whether it's bonuses or they're
there's always a
desperate
workaround.
for it. Yeah, they're desperate for it. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for
And-
having me, you guys. That's awesome.
Yeah, where can they find you on
Glad to
social
be here.
media?
605 Shield Maiden on Instagram.
Awesome.
So-
And we'll keep up with you as you're kind of doing some of these things. Look forward to bigger and more bold and Mr. Bendo like structures.
Yeah, you're on to big things.
Thank you.
That's
I hope
awesome.
so. Yeah, that's my dream. So
Yeah. So unless I'm being instructed otherwise, thanks for joining us. And you can send an email to podcast@fmamfg.org.
Yep.
Let us know how we're doing. Thank you and goodbye.
The Fabricator Podcast is a production of Fabricators and Manufacturers Association, located in Elgin, Illinois. The show is hosted by Dan Davis and the staff of FMA Communications. The podcast is produced by Gareth Slager and recorded and edited with the help of Brandon Geyer. Sales support provided by Andy Flando. Additional production support by Elizabeth Gavin Dana Weicker, Mary Diamond, Mike Owens, and me, Sarah Spring. Thank you for listening.